It's your host, Kevin Oldham, back with another episode of Franchise My Business, a podcast for franchisors hosted by franchisors. I'm excited today because something you may not know about me is I'm a bit of a biohacker. I like to do things that are unique with my body, and I also believe in using the body as medicine. And I'm super excited because in the franchising space, you end up finding out that there's franchises around every type of business out here. And I'm excited today because we have the CEO of QC Kinetix, a regenerative medicine-based franchise system based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm honored today because we have their CEO, Scott Hoots, on the line, and we're going to talk about just their explosive growth since they started franchising the business just 2.5, 3 years ago. So Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Let's go a little bit into your background because you have, a lot of our guests here on Franchise My Business are the founders, and they typically will fall into that CEO role. But you're a hired CEO for this franchise system. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Cool. So, what were you doing before you joined the organization?
Before I joined QC Kinetix, I was the president of a boutique pet food franchise based in Cincinnati, Ohio, called Pet Wants. I've been a bit of a long-time franchise executive, but Pet Wants was what I was doing right before I came on board here at QC Kinetix.
That's awesome. And you joined QC Kinetix in 2020, correct?
October of 2020. I've stepped foot in the door October 24th, 2020.
And you're originally our COO.
Chief Operating Officer. Yes, sir.
And it sounds like they brought you in to help this franchise effort. Is that a safe assumption?
That's 100% what happened. The founders had always contemplated franchising this business, growing it through the franchise model. They, of course, didn't have any franchise experience, so they thought, well, we need to bring somebody on board. They actually had consultants say, no, you don't have to bring anybody on board yet. Just run the thing for a year, get it started, run the thing for a year yourself, and then you can bring somebody on. And thank God they didn't heed that advice because their intuition was right. We had such an aggressive game plan to begin with that bringing on somebody with some experience was, they frequently say, one of the best decisions that they ever made.
That's awesome. What a testament to the work you're doing. We alluded to what you guys do at the beginning through my intro, but what exactly do the operators of your locations offer to their customers in their local markets? Like, what are the services you guys are offering?
Yeah, Kevin, I love the way you put that at the beginning. Utilizing the body to heal itself. The body's such a glorious thing, and there's so many parts of our human being that help us emotionally and physically. And what we do is we capitalize on some of those parts that can help you heal physically. Your blood being one, and the stem cells that are within your body being the other. So we take those products, we help concentrate them and put them into a form where it's really going to be targeted healing, and we put them right back into whatever affected joint there is, whether it's your knee, like me, I'm a patient and have been for the past 18 months, or your shoulder or your elbows or whatever it is.
That's awesome. And, as a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and my quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, got an injury last weekend, and we got a big game coming up this weekend. I'm hoping he's using all the tools in his, I imagine that this type of stuff is the type of thing that people think about. Tom Brady is what's able to keep him playing all these years and stuff. But the reality is these resources are available for Joe Public. I mean, they're available to us. Yeah. I think that a lot of people thought that stem cell and regenerative medicine, they all sound like these big things that maybe super famous people will use to get better sooner. But you and I both had white blood cells or stem cells injected into our bodies to try and reheal. We're just two guys. And so it's available for the masses now. And I think that's a really cool thing, right?
It 100% is. And, you bring up the athletes because really athletes have been using this kind of treatment for decades now. Kobe Bryant, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods are all folks that come to mind. But that's really a great way to put it. The average worker, blue collar worker, or the average person who just wants to be able to jump on the floor and roll around with their grandkids, but they can't because of this back pain that's been nagging them for 5 years. Now that treatments are available to help those folks be able to get back to what they were doing, that pain had caused them to not be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is you guys aren't selling like body healing; you're selling better lives.
Well, that's our mission. That's 100% our mission. The first sentence in our mission statement is to enhance the lives of as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome because if you can, and I think a lot of people think that these types of therapies, like they'll go to their traditional doctor and maybe like surgery is like the first thing that gets prescribed because we've been trained that care system, it's kind of like death care. It's like, hey, we only go there, when we're sick, and when we are, they're going to push us through a model. I love the fact that there's other options available. And I think that a lot of, particularly in America, where we do have some disposable income and we can try some of these other things, that a lot of times all a patient needs is some hope that there's some other treatment so that they can live their best lives. And you guys are serving up hope and not only hope, but results on a golden platter. So you've got a ton of locations, and this is really what I want to talk about because to start franchising the business in 2020, and I'll let you share how many locations you guys have basically in the past almost 3 years. So how many locations do you guys operate?
Not quite. So with the first franchise locations open in January of 2021, we closed the year out 2022 with just under 170 franchise locations located in 30 states across the United States. We've already opened 10 in January. We've got another 80 on the docket for 2023. People are buying into you put it great. You keep putting it great. You could be in my, come on, you can just come on.
Am I going to be your spokesperson going forward, right?
But yeah, please, you're hired. But people are buying into the hope that there's a better way to treat musculoskeletal pain or injury than what the traditional Western medicine is telling them with steroids, or hey, you got to have a replacement, or you got to have meniscus tear surgery, or whatever this other nonsense is. So patients are buying into that, but business people are buying into the thought that I can be a part of this. And, it's why I'm here as the CEO. It's been my personal business mission to be a part of a franchise organization that truly makes an impact on people's lives in a positive manner. And that's why the majority of our franchise owners have come on board.
That's really cool. What types of, when you're talking about playing with the body, injecting things, all those things, it's not like we're serving hamburgers, right? How does that work from a awarding a franchise? Are they required to be a medical professionals, or do they get a medical director? Like, how does the medical component work since it is regulated by our government, right?
Yeah, great. That's a great question. And we, along with other folks who franchise in the medical space, understand how to work within the requirements of each state and the federal government. The beauty is that in most cases, you don't have to be a medical professional to own a QC Kinetix franchise location. You do have to partner with a medical director who fills all of the medical part, because maybe we stayed at a Holiday Inn one time, but none of us can go shooting stuff in people's knees or shoulders, right? So we need to rely on the medical professionals to be able to do all of that stuff. So you have to be able to partner with one, but the great thing is that in most states you don't need to be a medical professional yourself. And we teach our new franchise owners how to navigate those waters in their specific state.
Yeah, because it's going to be different state by state, right?
It is. And it's so crazy the way states treat things. In most states, what we call a mid-level provider can provide these treatments, a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant. But in the course of franchising, we learned that one state actually requires MD to be able to do these procedures.
Oh, really?
It's crazy how different states treat the different regulatory environment in different states, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah. That's
you already have a regulated business because you're in franchising. You throw on the fact that you're the franchise, the business model that you guys are franchising is also regulated. You've got a couple layers of complexity, which is probably why they hired a guy like you to come in and try to build a team and make sure that everything's done correctly, right?
I cut my teeth helping grow you mentioned American Family Care. That system started out as a franchise, an urgent care franchise platform called Doctors Express. So I cut my teeth in healthcare franchising with that company, and that's where I kind of coined the phrase. Healthcare franchising is not for sissies. I mean, you already have
but it's not
a regulated environment and how you sell franchises and support them. But then when then you throw in the healthcare part of it. It is definitely not for sissies.
For sure. Not for sissies. There we go. So with this kind of crazy growth, like have you guys gone like a area developer model, or like how have you awarded so many locations in such a short amount of time? Like that's always a story that emerging franchisors, people who are newer in their journey, they're like, oh my gosh, they started basically 2 years ago and they have 170 locations. Well, maybe the 170 aren't open yet. We've got them spoken for. So maybe if you could lean into that a little bit more on how you guys go about awarding territories and how you've put so many business owners into entrepreneurship.
Sure. Well, here's the big story behind that. They're all open. That 170 number, those are all open and operating. And we've actually sold over 500 franchise licenses that will be developed over the next 10 years or so. And what it's boiled down to, Kevin, is just the model that we chose from the very get-go. I don't know that there's an official franchising term for it. I just call it an area developer model. So, the country is divided into DMAs, right? Designated marketing areas that are based on Nielsen ratings and where households get their television and radio signals from, right? So I don't know how many DMAs there are, 225, something like that. So we took all the DMAs, and each one of those DMAs represents a development opportunity. And how many locations you can develop depends on the size of the DMA. So we figure one location per every 500,000 people in that DMA. So if it's a small one and there's only 500,000 people, then that's a single store market. If it's a larger one and there's 5 million people, then that's a 10 location market, right? But the key for us was you had to be able to go in to the market as an individual, meaning we didn't split markets up. If you were going to buy Tampa and you wanted to develop the Tampa, Florida market for QC Kinetix, and I'm telling you that that's 10 locations, you had to come in and be able to sign a development agreement and pay for the entire 10 store area. So we're not chopping stuff up. That allowed us to enter into a lot of development agreements, but just the model itself lent itself to the quick development, low cost to build locations, not a whole lot of overhead in operating them. We haven't even talked about the fact that our locations, generally speaking, are only open 1 day a week.
Are they really?
They sure are. And that's a fun story too, that I
want to hear it, man. I mean, how are they like that? Let's dive into that. That's really cool. Like why?
Yeah, it's such a great story. So, we have three founders, right? Justin Kroll, Tyler Vale, and Dr. Richard Schaefer. Justin's the business guy. Backing up, they all worked at a practice here in the Charlotte area. So they got to know each other, and they brought on Tyler into this practice because of Tyler's knowledge of regenerative medicine. Tyler's a PA by trade. Doc's a licensed physician, plays at Justin's business guy. And they wanted to really expand into regenerative medicine and knew that regenerative medicine could be a standalone business providing direct health care to people who needed that health care, but without all the other stuff that multidisciplinary practices are doing. So they basically launched their own concept in Charleston. So the whole notion of 1 day a week actually started out of necessity because all three of these guys are working what I call their day jobs, right? Their Monday to Friday jobs, but they wanted to launch QC Kinetix. So they actually launched QC Kinetix on Saturdays. They get done with their job on Friday. They drive to Charleston, run the practice on Saturday, and then come home to their families for Sunday. And that's how the whole 1 day a week business model was born, kind of by necessity, right? But we were able to see a lot of patients in that single day, and we opened multiple locations in a market in different geographies so we can provide access to everybody in the market that's geographically dispersed, right? And on a different day, we can use the same team basically to run that entire market.
That's super cool. Like that's a judo move right there.
Double judo, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because you use the same team, multiple locations. That way, if a patient absolutely is like, hey, Thursday's the only day I can do it. Well, yeah, you can drive 30 miles to our other location, right?
Right.
And gives them an option if that's like a true. And then it keeps your overhead super low from a human capital perspective.
That's exactly right. So if you're a franchisee in let's say and you have 7 locations operating, if that's a donut franchise business or a haircut or a haircut business, you need to have 7 different crews, right? Meaning you can actually run that 7 location market with 2 crews. One crew working 3 days and the other crew working 2 days. It's definitely a double judo move for sure.
Yeah. You've got simplicity in the business model because I'm sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, you need spin down the blood, all that, right? You have some medical devices, a chair, voice, not a lot, right? And then they leave that for 6 days and go elsewhere and use the other set in a different subsection of the market and then just rotate around. Like it's an eloquent model. It really is an eloquent model. How'd you guys come up with that? Like, I know that the founding is probably not on purpose, right? It's like, hey, the founding was we work 1 day a week, and you start looking at this, kind of area developer model, MSA model. Like, hey, this could actually work to our franchisees' benefits.
That was the thought process, and that thought process was worked through before I came on board. So I don't get any of the credit for developing that thought process. But they were so successful early on in that first clinic that they opened a second one in Charlotte, but again, only opened 1 day, and they were just as successful in Charlotte. Then opened in Austin, Texas, and really proved concept that this could be a great concept. But the beauty of it is that we've been talking about our business model being involved with musculoskeletal issues. Talked before we started the podcast that we could get it. We were getting into hair restoration therapy, something that both of us can certainly to benefit from. IV therapy, sexual dysfunction therapy. And as we start to get into all of these different areas where we can help more people, then we'll have the bandwidth to be able to open on different days. So maybe Monday is MSK day, Tuesday is IV therapy day, Thursday is hair restoration day. That's kind of the vision for how we see this thing playing out.
Yeah, it allows you guys to scale up those services in a really, really, really smart way. Man, you got my head spinning. I'm like, what other businesses can you operate like that? And there's very few. The reality is most businesses, particularly franchises, are serving that end consumer, and they don't have the luxury of putting them into, a box in terms of scheduling. So kudos to you guys on figuring out not only that model, but also building it as kind of the core of what I would think would be a very scalable franchise model for the operators, and nice for you guys as well as a franchisor.
100%. It makes it really exciting and just a pleasure to come in and be around the people that I'm around and the growth that we're seeing. It's a pleasure to do that every day.
I imagine probably one of the things that is, if I had to think about a hurdle that your franchisees have to overcome in their market, it is this education component around what you do, because regenerative medicine isn't something that everybody knows is available, or if they know it's available, they may think, hey, that's for, like athletes, as we were talking about. I think that's probably how most people figured out this was a thing. But do you find that your franchisees have a lot of education for patients on how this type of stuff works, whether it's stem cell or are a lot of your customers coming in already educated and they're just looking for somebody that they trust to be able to do the procedure?
No, it's actually the opposite of what you just said. So we operate a national call center. So in every single one of these markets where we operate, we advertise a single telephone number. If you're experiencing pain in your knees from arthritis and it's keeping you from playing golf, call blah, blah, blah number. And that rings into our national call center. We don't answer calls in the clinics at all because we want to be focused on the patient that's in front of us. Cool. But that's the job of the call center, is to educate the consumer. We have 4 pillars that our business operates on: advertising, qualification, which is the call center part. So you can say qualification is equal to education, the consultation process, and then excellent care. And that second pillar, that qualification and education, is so important because people just don't know what we're talking about. Right. And we can't, I can't be so blatant in my advertising as to say, well, I offer you stem cell therapy. That's not allowed for us to advertise in that manner. So, we talk about the natural biologics of your body and how your body can heal itself, how we can help your body heal itself. Mm-hmm. So it's so subtle that it requires some human interaction to be able to help educate that potential patient on what it is we do and how we do it and how much it costs and what every part of the treatment plan does specifically individually.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really cool too. So you guys, your national call center not only helps get the information that these prospective patients need, qualify them, but also schedule them directly into the local locations. Is that how that like end to end?
Sure does. So, and this is one of the cool stories. There's so many cool stories. We are going to there will be a book about how we grew this franchise business. Yeah. We are, it's been determined and proven out that we're the fastest growing brick and mortar franchise that's launched in the last 10 years. That's according to a survey done by Fran Data. And I lost my train of thought or where I was going with all of that. What direction were we going? You got to help me out.
You want me to lob you a grenade, or I'll throw you a no.
Yeah,
it's all good, man. I do the same thing. Like I'll get so engrossed into what I'm talking about that sometimes I'll be like, all right, Where'd I go with that? And you know what that is? That's people that have a lot going on inside their heads, a lot of responsibility and things like that.
Well,
and
and so just like that. Now back on track here. It was the whole call center. It was the whole call center thing. So we knew that that education component was going to be so important for not only our franchise owners but our patients, right? So when I walked in the door in October of 2020, we had 4 people answering the telephone for QC Kinetix. They were answering the phone for six corporate-owned clinics that were operating at the time. Now we've grown that call center to 75 agents who answer the telephone, 4 supervisors over those agents, and just the most fantastic call center manager that you could ever ask for, Tony Carter, that's done a great job of building that call center. And it is one of the most important parts of our business, but it's also been one of the most fulfilling to see how we've grown that business.
Yeah, that is super, super cool. And what I love is the fact that you're you're taking less off of your franchisees' plate so that, they're focused on delivering the service, right? And
right.
I think you and I both know that the more that we can do to support our franchisees, whether it's done for you or installed solutions, the better for them. And I think it's just super cool that you guys saw that as probably one of the most important things. And that's kind of what I was thinking with your business, is the educational component on getting the consumer to understand something that is probably foreign to them, probably the first time they've ever thought about even inquiring about this type of solution for their wellness. Taking control of that and then putting people on the schedule, putting patients on the schedule so that the franchisees just got to go do what they do. That's awesome.
That's it. So they can focus on the person as they walk in the door. I remember, back in my Domino's pizza days, I was working in a store and, you had orders coming in over the telephone. I mean, there was a day when people use telephones. Right?
I remember those days. You called and be like, hey, you could call and order a bunch of pizzas to your friend's house. And
that's right.
Right.
So you're on the telephone and you have somebody walk in that wants to place an order, and then you're automatically conflicted, right? Do I take care of the person on the telephone? Do I take care of the person who's walking in? You're face to face with the person walking in. You could use a hold button to put the person on the telephone on hold. We don't have to worry about any of that stuff. The folks in our clinics are they're only focused on the patient walking in the door and being able to provide the last 2 components of, actually the last 3 components of those 4 pillars. They don't have to worry about incoming calls. We take that off of their plates.
That's awesome. Well, if people want to learn more about QC Kinetix, what's the best place? Like, let's say we found somebody who sees what we see, which is that, using the body as medicine. They're like, man, this is a really cool opportunity. Like, where would they go to learn more about the franchise opportunity? Or if there's consumers who, we got a couple locations here in my market in Kansas City, I saw. So if somebody's looking to get this type of care, where do they go to learn about you guys?
Dude, Kansas City was the 3rd franchise location to ever open. And
really?
In fact, yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of that when we opened that location. We were me and the 3 founders were right there on site when that location opened. Great owner. His name is Jason Mildenberger. He's been a part of our lives for quite some time. But to answer your question, we got two opportunities. We have a great consumer site, QCkinetix.com, that offers a lot of information about the consumer, the healthcare side. What kind of treatments do we do? What to expect if you are a QC Kinetix patient? What kind of conditions we treat, how we treat them, all of that kind of good stuff. But from a franchise perspective, if somebody were interested in a franchise, you can get to the franchise site off of the consumer site, but we also have a franchise dedicated site too, QCfranchise.com. Go there and you can learn all sorts of information about what it's like to be a QC Kinetix franchise owner.
Awesome. Well, Scott, thank you so much for taking time to share with us some really good news. I mean, a couple things. Obviously, the fact that you guys are helping people heal their bodies, I think, is probably the biggest piece of news. This is available, but also just a phenomenal growth story through some really smart leverage and expansion strategies. This has been a joy. So thank you very much for joining us today. I deeply appreciate it.
You're welcome. I appreciate you having me on. There's nothing that I love more than talking about our business and how we help people. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, today, if you enjoyed our conversation with Scott, maybe you know somebody who could benefit from regenerative medicine, or you know somebody who's looking at getting into the space from an entrepreneurship perspective, do me a favor. Go ahead and share this episode with that one person right now. My second ask is, if you like the show, Franchise My Business, you like what we're doing, deeply appreciate if you could subscribe on the platform of your choice. Until next time, I'm your host, Kevin Oldham. Have a phenomenal day. Be well.